I think this is the key problem I have with the Bucs in this matchup and why I'm taking the Chiefs in a close one. I'm thinking about 7 points at this point. The reason why I'm taking the Chiefs is I think the player that loses this game for the Bucs is Tom Brady.
Really?
I think we're not looking at the fact that Brady today particularly has limitations. Now, I'm not sure where I don't know, Shane or Brandon, like what are, because I do see him regressing. I'm just not sure how to pinpoint what it is in particular. But I think this game, more than anything, showed those problems. Now, obviously, most people are going to mask it and say, oh my God, Brady won that game, whatever. But again, as we talked about throughout the playoffs, it's not really Brady that's made this team what it is. I mean, in some degree it has, obviously. You don't have Jameis there and him throwing interceptions left and right. But I really do feel like the one player that's going to lose this game for the Bucs, especially if I'm picking the Chiefs, is Tom Brady. I think the Bucs, so to speak, stops with him.
I would agree with that. And I think the issue with Brady is that, I mean, the guy was never very gifted athletically. I mean, let's just be honest. But he, he's always relied on his knowledge of the game. He obviously has a very high football IQ and his ability to throw and make decisions on the fly. And I think his how would I describe it? His ability to think on his feet and make proper decisions in the moment and make accurate, well-informed throws, I guess, is diminishing. That's at least what it seems like to me.
I would agree with you, Shane. And I just pulled up the 3 interceptions that he had today, and it made me remember something, Robert. You and I had a conversation, I'd say maybe week 4 or 5, about Tom Brady and his ability to throw the ball down the field.
We talked about this the first week of the season.
Yeah, it might have been the first week of the season. Yeah.
It was the first week.
We had a conversation about this and the power in his arm and how his throwing power is not there anymore. Like, he doesn't have and he's never really had that power. But he throws like he still is younger than he is. And all 3 of his interceptions were not bad looks today. They were not bad choices. They were just, he doesn't have the power to make those throws anymore. And he was throwing them, honestly, a lot like Peyton Manning. Just like very high lobs. And that were just coming down really short, honestly. Like either overthrows or underthrows.
Right. It wasn't even short. It was like short or long. Here's something important, too, that makes the way this team is constructed. And again, we talked about this earlier in the year. It is that Brady as a quarterback is not necessarily built for this offense. It just isn't. This offense is about throwing the ball deep and stuff like that. And part of the lack of decision-making that Shane mentioned, I think, was evident today. There were so many throws that were very tight, but also some of the deep passes. I mean, how many times would a safety come over the top that he wouldn't see, but he would still throw it? Or he wouldn't see it, but he would throw the ball at the end of the day. The reason why the lack of decision-making is there is partly because there is pressure on this offense. Now, maybe this wasn't the case against the Packers or against Washington, for instance, whatever. It's you don't have to think about it in terms of the teams that they play. I mean, the teams that they play, they don't need to do this, but this is part of the reason why guys like Josh Allen struggle. Remember, I talked about this with Drew Lock at, week 6 or week 7, about what playing the Chiefs does to a quarterback. And in this game in particular with the Bills, the one thing that frustrated me was, hey, why are you guys milking the clock? You're down by 10. You can't just dink and dunk on this team. And the unfortunate part is Brady's propensity, or not even propensity, just what makes him the most effective quarterback is those short reads. But he's pushing himself to make those deep throws because, I'm sorry, there's no way you can beat the Chiefs, especially, as I said, they're going to hit another gear. And we'll get to that another gear part in a bit because I think this is another problem. But, I think that's huge.
Problem. And here's the problem that they're going to have. And here's what they exposed today with Tom Brady, right? And what the Packers did. I noticed this on all three of the interceptions. They were playing off. They weren't playing super tight coverage on the deep balls. Like they were kind of having a man trailing, and it's as if they were like daring him to throw the deep balls. They were
the safety would come in. The safety would come in at the last second,
and be able to just grab it on the if it was thrown, either come over the top and get to pick it off on the overthrow, or drop or be trailing, or have the guy trailing him just be like, thanks for the ball. The problem is this: you can't, as you said, you can't play catch up in a boxing fight. It's basically throwing haymakers. The Chiefs come out and they throw haymakers. They are built to lead. They can come from behind, but it's very hard for them. They have to be allowed to come from behind.